Call to order Board of Zoning Appeals, June 26, 2023. Mr. Milborn, we do have you remote, unfortunately, because you can't get video according to our rules of procedure. We cannot take your vote. So you can ask questions and participate, but we cannot take an official vote from you. And I believe that's following state laws according to Mr. Foster here. So, okay. So with that, first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from June 12th, 2023.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Mole. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. We have, next up is findings of fact for BZA 2023-020, a development standards variance for Mike Gordon on behalf of the Allen Commercial Group.
Chairman, in consideration of statutory criteria, I move that we adopt the written findings of fact as presented, incorporating the evidence submitted into the record as our final decision and final action for variance petition number BZA 2023-020.
Motion by Mrs. Peters, second by Mr. Mole. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. Before we go to the next one, I've got to ask, are there any special requests or continuances?
I do believe we have a request online.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, for the record, Russell Brown for racetrack on your first two matters that were, one of which was heard last meeting, was an indecisive vote. My client has requested that we have the opportunity to be physically present when a final vote is taken on the petition heard last month. As you all know, I have a standing conflict on the fourth Monday of the month and therefore cannot be there in person. And so our request would be that both of those petitions be continued to your July 11th meeting.
So you're going to love this, but I will not be present at that meeting. I can.
And I do we just need a tie-breaking vote, or does it need to be a revote by all 5 members? Because I believe everyone needs to revote.
I will. I can dial in. I can dial in and should have video. So I will make it a point to make sure I'm able to do that. Will everybody else be here that July 11th? Mr. Milborn, will you be here July 11th?
I will be in attendance, yes.
Okay.
And I think it's the 10th.
I was going to say, I thought it was 10. Somebody said 11. So.
Sorry, I apologize. That was my mistake.
Okay. So Mr. Brown, can I take a motion to continue BZA 2022-046 and 047 to the July 10th meeting? Motion by Mr. Small, second by Mr. King. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Okay. DZA 2023-021 development standards variance for petitioner Raymond Seeley on behalf of VR Empire.
Mr. Chairman, in consideration of statutory criteria, I move that we adopt the written findings of fact as presented, incorporating the evidence submitted into the record as our final decision, final action, the variance petition number BZA 2023-021.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Mole. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. And then BZA 2023-022, also a development standards variance by petitioner Raymond Vasili on behalf of VR Empire. This is for 1655 West County Line Road. The previous one was for 1641 West County Line Road.
Mr. Chairman, in consideration of our statutory criteria, I move that we adopt the written findings of fact presented, incorporating the evidence submitted into the record as the final decision and final action for variance petition number BZA 2023-022.
Motion by Mr. Mole, second by Mrs. Peters. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. Next up is we have no old business since they were both continued. Any old business from the floor?
It's brought to my attention that the 11th is a Tuesday.
Yeah, it'll be July 10th. It'll be the 10th. Any other old business from the floor? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. First up is BZA 2023-24, Development Standards Variance for 1146 North Emerson Avenue. Petitioner is Donna Smithers on behalf of Emerson Point LLC. There's a request for relief on 3 sections of the ordinance. One is a front elevation to allow the front to be reduced from 30% to 17% transparent. Number 2 is a design standards, side and rear elevations to allow for permitted materials other than predominant foundation material. And number 3 is development standards to reduce the front yard setback from 60 feet to 40 feet on Emerson Point Drive. Before I have everybody get sworn in, are all the notices and everything in order?
Everything is on file. I need to admit certified copies in for available ordinance.
Everyone wishing to speak to this, please stand and raise your right hand and be sworn in by our secretary.
Do you swear under penalties or perjury the testimony you're about to give is true to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Two things. Can I get your name and address for the record verbally? And then there's a sheet up there that we will need you to fill out your name and address if you would, so that we can get it right on the record.
Sure thing. Martin Speaks, North Point Engineering and Surveying, here on behalf of our client, and also Donna Smithers, as you mentioned. Address is 6125 Southeast Street, Indianapolis, 46.
Okay. If you would, tell us why you're here.
Well, there's 3 items, as mentioned. There's 3 variances. One is to reduce the amount of transparency on the front facade from 30% to 17%. The second item we'd like to do is to allow side rear elevations to consist of permitted materials other than the predominant front elevation material. And then the final and third item we'd like you to consider is to reduce the front setback from 60 feet to 40 feet along the Emerson Point Drive. I can go through some of our items. Did staff want to go through their items first, or would you like?
Well, we'll go through your stuff first. So do you have your statement of reasons for the statutory criteria?
Yes, sir. The item number 1 for the first variance request of the reduced amount of transparency on the front facade from 30 to 17%. The first item, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, general welfare of the community, because our response to the proposed development and use is consistent with the intended use under the comprehensive plan and is consistent with the surrounding area. Therefore, the project will not be injurious to the item number 2 for that same request. The use and value of area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not affect substantially adverse manner, because our response, the proposed building meets and exceeds the architectural building standards in regards to the ordered and masonry aesthetics. The proposed building is consistent with the surrounding properties and will add value to the development. The third item, strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties to the property. Our response, the unique location of the property causes 2 road frontages. The elevations in question are actually the 2 side facades of the proposed building, kind of what makes it unique is being that corner area. The architect was able to provide 27% transparency, but essentially the 3 front elevations make it difficult to provide a required 30%.
Yeah, the structure is not regulated, or wait, a determination of no hazard has been obtained from the airport. So
Yeah.
for regulatory code 8-21-10-3.
Yes, sir.
And one moment, Mr. Milborn? Go ahead with number 2.
Sure. The first item on number 2, again, the not being injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because the proposed development and its use is consistent with the intended use under the comprehensive plan and is consistent with the surrounding area. Therefore, the project will not be injurious to the community. The use, number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner, mainly because the proposed building meets and exceeds the architectural building standards in regards to the ordered masonry and aesthetics. The proposed building is consistent with the surrounding properties and will add value to development. Very similar response to the previous one. The third item, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because the unique location of the property causes two road frontages. Again, the same basic response. Therefore, the east and west facades are considered the front facades. For the use of this building, the front facade is north facing elevation. For building aesthetics, the north facade is proposed to be comprised of a mixture of brick, stone, EAFS, and storefront. The rear elevation will be comprised of brick, stone, CMU, and EAFS. Per the ordinance, these areas would have to be completely brick covered. And as we know, for the item 4 is there's no hazard to the air navigation to the Greenwood Airport. The third item is the reduction from the front setback from 60 to 40 feet, as previously mentioned. And the item number 1, not being injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare to the community because the proposed building is consistent with other buildings as previous mentioned. And basically the statement's the same. The item number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The location of the building on this lot has no impact to the existing buildings on the adjacent lots. The reduced setback does not block view or provide any negative impact to those adjacent buildings. And item number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because due to the property having those 2 front setbacks previously mentioned and multiple easements along Emerson Avenue, the building cannot be constructed at the required 60-foot setback and provide adequate parking for the structure item 4 as implied as previously mentioned.
Anything else to add? No, sir. All right. Staff?
Staff is pretty much in agreement with all the statements of the petitioner. They've done a very nice job of presenting architecturally what is going to be a nice looking building. It just doesn't quite meet what our code says, but it definitely meets the intent of what we're going for. So we're in favor of all 3 variances.
Okay, with the one condition
One condition.
that the final plan shall substantially conform to the site plan depicted in Exhibit C and building elevations depicted in Exhibit D.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, close the public hearing and open it to the board. Mr. Milborn, are you out there still? He is not. Okay, so he dropped. Okay, then Mr. Mole.
I'm good.
Okay, Mr. King. Good. Mrs. Peters. I think very clearly stated by both the presenter and staff that everything looks in line from a statement of reasons. So I have no questions either. I will take a motion to admit all the evidence into the record.
Chairman, I move that we admit all the evidence presented in regard to this matter, including the notices, receipts, maps, photographs, written documents, petitioner's application and attachments, petitioner's detailed statement of reasons, the staff report prepared by the planning department, certified copies of the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan, testimony of the petitioner, city planning staff, and any remonstrators, and all other exhibits presented, be they oral or written, for consideration by this board in regard to this petition, and to include the testimony of those present this evening.
Motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mr. Mole. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. I gotta take a motion on request number 1 to reduce the amount of transparency on the front facade from 30% to 17%.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request, with the condition, the final plans shall substantially conform to the site plan depicted in Exhibit C and building elevations depicted in Exhibit D.
Motion by Mr. King to approve with one condition, second by Mr. Moll. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. Take a motion on request number 2 to allow the side rear elevations to consist of permitted materials other than the predominant front elevation material.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this request with the previously stated condition.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Moll. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. And the third request is to reduce the front setback from 60 feet to 40 feet along the Emerson Point Drive frontage.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this request with the previously stated condition.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Moll. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion also carries 4-0. Approved 4-0. Take a motion to direct the Corporation Council to draft written findings of fact.
Mr. Chairman, having considered statutory criteria, I move that we direct the Corporation's Counsel Office to draft written findings of fact regarding our decision on the variance request presented in variance petition number BZA 2023-024. Said findings specifically incorporate the staff report and the evidence submitted into the record for consideration and adoption by the Board of Zoning Appeals as our final decision and final action regarding this petition at our next meeting.
Motion by Mr. Moll, second by Mrs. Peters. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. Did I see you filling out name and address on that?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, we will take final action in a couple of weeks, in 2 weeks, but you're welcome to move forward working with the staff. So,
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate everybody's time.
next up is BZA 2023-025, 1301 Wheatcraft Way cul-de-sac. Petitioner Chris Hedrick. For Greenwood AIO and AO Investors LLC requesting relief from section of the development standards to reduce the setback from the west lot line from 15 feet to 7 feet. All those wishing to present, please stand and be sworn in by our secretary.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalties for perjury the testimony you are about to give is true to the best of your knowledge?
Yes. Before we move on, is everything in order? All the receipts and notices?
Everything's in order and in our file.
And you've meant to certify copy of the form of development ordinance to the record.
Perfect. Name and address for the record, and also if you would please fill that out on the sheet as well.
Joe Conver, 4323 Pheasant Ridge Road, Roanoke, Virginia.
Tell us why you're here.
We're here to for the variance of the Harmony at Greenwood variance.
And you need this to reduce the lot line?
Yes, from 15 feet to 7 feet.
And do you have your statement of reasons with you that you can respond to?
I have it up there. Do you have it on there? You gotta bring it up, or I have copies for it. I mean, I have it.
Oh, yeah, if you have it, we just need to go through them, get them on the record.
So what specific section of the ordinance are we seeking is section 10-02-28-A, setback for the lot line of 15 feet.
Okay.
We'd like to reduce it to 7 feet for a distance of 175 feet.
Okay, and the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because?
It will not.
Is there anything you want to add to why it will not? You've got your answer. So your answer was that the building was separated 15 feet from the curb of the public road and by a 24-inch tall retaining wall. Is there anything you want to add to that? Okay. And then number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because?
The building will have a foundation landscaping to soften the appearance seen by the road and will not affect the adjacent properties.
Okay. And then number 3, the strict application of terms of zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because?
This will result for the city imposed requirement for Wheatcraft Way to be with a public right of way. Essentially, it was a city road and now it's a private road, therefore reducing the amount of space in order to fit all site components.
Okay, and then the structure is regulated under Indiana Code 8-21-10-3, and a copy of the determination of no hazard has been given to the city, so we have that on file.
That's right.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, sir.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, if not, I'll staff comments and your findings.
Yep, so staff was in agreement with the petitioner's statement of reasons. We would like to note that maybe the peculiarness or uniqueness of this request is that the city is having them actually develop a public road through their property for some connectivity that was part of a longer range plan and commitment. So with the addition of the new road, they will not be meeting the 15-foot setback. There is plenty of project space actually on both sides of the road, and it's going to be a pretty low traffic road. We consulted with our city engineer. He's confirmed that it is outside of any crash zone or radius where there would be maybe a safety concern. There will also be a 6-foot or maybe even a 5-foot sidewalk, or I would have to check on it. 6-foot sidewalk, thank you, Kevin. And there will also be a retaining wall there too, so it's not going to be right up against the building. So we are favorable of their request due to us working with them to fit this road onto their site.
Thank you. Close the public hearing. Mr. Moll, any questions? Mr. King? Ms. Peters? Same here. This one is very well presented by everyone involved, so appreciate that. I'll take a motion to admit all the evidence of the record.
Chairman, I move that we admit all the evidence presented in regard to this matter, including the notices, receipts, maps, photographs, written documents, petitioner's application and attachments, petitioner's detailed statement of reasons, the staff report prepared by the planning department, certified copies of the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan, testimony of the petitioner, city planning staff, and any remonstrators, and all other exhibits presented, be they oral or written, for consideration by this board in regard to this petition, and to include the testimony of those present this evening.
Motion by Ms. Peters, second by Mr. Moll. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. Take a motion on the ballot, which is a request of variance from UDO Development Standards, section 10-02-28. Subsection A, the Airport Commerce Development Standards to reduce the setback from the west lot line from 15 feet to 7 feet.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this request with the condition the final plans shall substantially conform to the site plan depicted in Exhibit C.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Moll. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. I'll take a motion to direct the corporation council to draft written findings of fact.
Mr. Chairman, having considered the statutory criteria, I move that we direct the corporation's council office to draft written findings of fact regarding our decision on the variance request presented in variance petition number BZA 2023-025. Said findings specifically incorporate the staff report and the evidence submitted into the record for consideration and adoption by the Board of Zoning Appeals as their final decision and final action regarding the petition at our next meeting.
Motion by Mr. Moll, second by Mr. King. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. Any new business from the floor? Oh, sorry, sir. So you did fill out your name and address, and you'll same thing. You can start proceeding with the staff, and we'll take final action. Thank you very much. Any new business from the floor? Seeing none, any announcements?
No new announcements from us. We're still have agendas coming up, so no break in sight.
Here. Very good. Mr. Foster?
Nothing legal.
All right. I will, as I said, I will be remote, so I will join. That change already knows as possible. So,
Fingers crossed.
do what?
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Motion to adjourn? You're adjourned. Stop the recording.
That would be it on your phone.